Folks, a few weeks back I did a video titled How Well Do Siamese Algae Eaters Eat Blackbeard Algae? And though I was able to show that my guy did a great job in my 10-gallon tank eating and removing that algae, I never actually caught him in the act. Every time the camera got near, he winked at me time and time again, but I never caught him eating the algae, and I felt bad about it that I couldn't actually show the evidence. Well, this time around I caught him. So, in what will be a small two-part video series, here is How Well Do Siamese Algae Eaters Eat Blackbeard Algae Part 2, Caught in the Act, coming up right now. Since this is now going to be a two-part video series, in part one I mentioned I was dosing too much iron in my 10-gallon tank, and when you dose too much iron it can lead to blackbeard algae growth. I was also doing that in my 15-gallon crib fry grow-out tank, so I have a buildup of blackbeard algae in this tank as well. Now in this tank we also have Kribensis parenting, so in the video if you see mom and dad get a little bit aggressive toward any fish that get around the kids, they're just trying to be good parents, and they are for about 3 weeks until they forget all about their kids, let them leave the nest and go out on their own. And nowadays here at the den, just about any given time there are crib fry swimming around in one of the tanks. Let's go up to the top of this one, show you this algae. Now this algae growth is here for two reasons. One, I was dosing too much iron previously in this tank, and two, I was trying to be real careful with water changes. I wasn't removing any leaves that had blackbeard algae on it because I was trying to be careful with the crib fry that had just hatched. So I went and got Winky, my Siamese Algae Eater, took him out of my 10-gallon tank and moved him into this tank to see if I could catch him in the act. This time he didn't disappoint and went right after the blackbeard algae shortly after I put him in the tank. Maybe he got over his fear of cameras, but he started eating it right away, and you can see as I watched him eat this just how tough this algae is. You can see him pull back, almost yanking the algae off the leaf, and this might be why Otocinclus, nearite snails, some of the other algae eaters in the hobby just don't find this type of algae very appetizing. Lucky for all of us in the hobby, Siamese algae eaters do, and they do a great job at it. Now they also eat other types of algae, but they really are the one fish, at least in my experience, that I've seen really does eat this blackbeard algae well. What Winky here didn't know is while he was in the 10-gallon tank enjoying himself, in this tank, Kribensis were breeding, fry were hatching, and I forgot to remind him while he's enjoying his meal to keep his head on a swivel. Just a bluff there on the crib's part, but he's just trying to keep any fish away from the fry. So our star of the show here did move to another leaf, but cribs and crib fry move around as well. If he was fazed by those cribs at all, it only was for a second, and he went right back to doing what he does best, eating this blackbeard algae. Now, of course, the solution here to minimize blackbeard algae is not to dose so much iron. Iron is important for our plants. We do need to dose it occasionally, but I was dosing this tank twice a week, which is really just too much iron. I went a little bit overboard with it, and since I've pared that back to once a week and about a half dose, that seems to be the right amount for this tank. But at the end of the day, I was glad I had some of this algae growth because I was finally able to show and catch this Siamese Algae Eater in the act eating the algae, which I just simply wasn't able to do in the first video of the series. In the meantime, my guy's got plenty of blackbeard algae to eat in this tank, as long as he keeps his head on a swivel, because mom and dad have a little bit more crib parenting to do over the next few weeks. So there is the evidence, folks. Of course, we all try to limit algae growth in our tanks. If you do find, though, that you're getting a lot of excess blackbeard or blackbrush algae, and you are dosing iron separately in addition to your other fertilizer, pull back a little bit on the iron first. If you're not dosing iron separately and you're using an all-in-one fertilizer, pull back a little bit on the fertilizer and the lighting, and that should do the trick. But if you do find yourself in a situation where you have excess blackbeard, blackbrush algae growth, you know the fish to call on. After a couple weeks, my guy here got the tank nice and clean again. A quick update on last week's video. If you are planning on showing us your tanks, again, email dmichaelsfishdin@gmail.com. Submissions have already come in, have room for about 5 more in the first episode of this series, which I plan on putting out sometime around August 25th. Send in a picture or video of your tank, tell us a little bit about it, what plants or fish you're keeping, how long you've been in the hobby, your YouTube handle, or your first name. We'd love to show the subscribers what you're doing with your tanks. And I hope this video was helpful to you, especially if you're not as familiar with Siamese algae eaters, in showing that they really do love to eat blackbeard algae. Please like, comment, subscribe for future content, and as always, folks, thanks for watching.